Well, we got a bit of snow today. I think we're supposed to get more tonight. I mean, they got percentages all night, all day long. But this last hour, I think they had a 65%, then it drops. And then I think this evening it's going to pick back up. So I know everybody likes me to walk out in the woods during the snow days. But I'm telling you, the older I get, the less comfortable I'm doing this. Even if I fall, back then it wasn't no big deal. You just kind of bounce a little and you start over. But you fall now, it doesn't bounce quite as well. And the other thing is if you try to catch yourself, with a slide, then you're stretching all your joints out of place, and it's terrible. But I don't know. I think I'm complaining, but in the end, it's true. So I'll just send you all the bill, the medical expenses if I fall. So now everybody's going to say, "Oh, see, I told you shouldn't get solar panels. You need to get a windmill." Well, there's no wind and no sun, so it wouldn't work either way. It's just wasting money. But of course, I'll sweep these off. I don't expect to get any sun today, so we're just on batteries. I'll run the generator. I ran it this morning. They're fully charged, and then I'll run it again tonight before we go to bed. And we'll just bypass the solar for a while. Everybody has a solution that's not a solution. And it's something that people really need to consider if they're ever going to do anything like this. I don't think my audience at this point in the game is really interested in doing this. I used to think that's what it was. I only know maybe one person that is actually living somewhat of a minimalistic life, or one family, I should say. Beyond that, I don't think anybody really says this is what I'm going to do. I mean, some people say, "Oh, I got solar panels," and some people will say, I live in a smaller house. And one person says, "I live in a tiny house and it was 800 square feet." But to me, that's not a tiny house. That's a bedroom, a bathroom, probably a living room and a kitchen. We live in 200 square feet, and it's all one room. So, yeah, I don't suspect that people are really interested. I'm not criticizing. I should point that out. I don't suspect that people are really interested in doing this. So, it's one of the reasons I've struggled with this channel anymore. Is if people aren't interested in doing it, why are they watching? Where do I go with this content? And I don't have the answer. That's why I started the other channel, because I just started running out of answers. I don't know where to go. And of course, everybody loves to tell me where to go. Get more chickens. Well, okay, I had chickens, and you know what? That didn't work. I considered getting pigs, but I thought, why am I investing in pigs and having to go through all that work if I'm not sure it's actually going to help the channel? I mean, is my audience actually going to learn anything by pigs, by getting pigs? Probably not. It'll just be something. Get a dog. Well, I got 2. Still don't have anything. And the nice thing about these dogs is they're strays. They were starving to death. We rescued them. We put them in a tiny house. And, we try to control the temperature in there with a wood stove so they don't get too hot or too cold. And it still doesn't draw attention. Get a cat. There's a famous YouTuber who's got a cat. Well, we had a cat. That didn't work. The views for the dogs really don't give me much more views. In reality, let's say I normally get 1,200 views. If I make a video about the dogs, I might get 1,400 views. It really isn't significant. So, the suggestions is kind of neat, I guess. I don't know if it's neat or annoying or whatever it is. What I do know is that new channel, which I'll put in up next box at the end of this video to that video. That channel is going to get so much more potential. Get Google AI, Gemini. I've been discussing YouTube strategies for both channels, and it has basically said, well, you need to give this channel up. It's not going to go anywhere. There's nothing to do with it. Pivot it or Yeah, and then they want, you know, you got to buy animals, of course. You got to, just all kinds of things that I'm not interested in doing. It means I got to do something else. And the whole point of this channel was to do something unique, which we are. Not everybody does it. And give people information. You know, there are people that say I teach them things all the time, and that's great. I mean, there's not much to teach anymore. You can easily find how to put a well in, or a well pump, and easily figure out how to hook up solar panels. I've got all that. So to discuss it again, you know, the other day I made a video about the generator and the solar panels and different things, and yeah, that was extra information, a little bit of extra detail, but nothing you really needed to live off grid. I mean, most of the stuff, I was talking about batteries the other day, you didn't need that information. I didn't need that information. I learned it in the 9 years of using them. It doesn't change the fact that I still have batteries. So really, the only thing you have to think about is, do I want lead acid like me? Or do I want lithium like everybody else? And I can almost assure you that you'll probably get lithium ion. So I'm not even helping you there. That family that I told you about, they use lead acid. So I got to be careful. Whew. I can just see myself killing myself down here. And so now, just to be clear, you know, this is 1.5 acres. And a lot of this is bushed up over here where it's hard to walk. And somebody has made a junk pile over here years ago, which I have thought about cleaning up many times, but I just never have. Don't know if I ever will. So you really can't walk over there. So what you've seen is I walked from the house, which is basically one in the corner of the property, diagonal to the other corner of the property, then up the edge of the property, well, not really, but kind of center property, wrap myself around to the edge of the property, and now I'm coming back up towards the house again. Of course, I'm just going to keep circling this portion here so we can stay in the woods. Like I said, I know everybody likes the woods. It's 1.5 acres. Again, I know there are people out there who think I need to own 20 acres. But in all honesty, I don't really know why. This is enough to do whatever we want. It's not so much that I can't keep up with it. You know, you gotta admit, I'm not old, but I'm getting older. And Carolyn is older than me, so, you know, we're getting up there in age where, do we really want to have to take care of 20 acres? Of course, then security becomes more of an issue. People trespassing and risking hurting themselves or doing something illegal, or, you know, and I only come down here in the fall and the winter. I try to stay out of here in the summer as much as possible because I get a lot of ticks on me. And then copperheads, you know, they're just too sneaky. Copperheads are just too sneaky. And then we got that, I don't know, it's a rattlesnake of some sort. And that one, I don't know it very well because where I've come from, I didn't even know we had rattlesnakes in Missouri. You know, I come from the east side and more of the central side of Missouri. I've lived in both locations and I didn't know anything about them. You get down here, they're talking about this rattlesnake, and I don't want anything to do with that. And as much as I don't like snakes, I try to keep the black snakes alive just to keep the copperhead population down. So anyway, my point is I don't come down here very often. So if there's a security issue, like somebody's doing a, you know, they built themselves a lab on my property, I wouldn't know about it until the fall time. By that time, you got a real problem on your hands. So, but here I can just kind of look through the woods. I can come down a little bit, or I can ride the lawnmower down here pretty easily. You know, the beast. And do a circle a couple times a year. Make sure everything's okay. See if there's any branches or trees that are falling over. And then, of course, come up with a plan to get rid of those trees. I do that a lot. I'll just trim up these trees in the fall and the winter. But we didn't have a lot of problems this year, which is, I don't know if it's a big deal, but I kind of hope to get a couple trees each year so we can keep up on our firewood usage, but I didn't get any this year, so I'll have to cut something down, which I don't really want to do, or go back out and get some free firewood from somebody off marketplace, which isn't the worst thing in the world. I mean, it's pretty bad because you never know where you're going to have to go to get it. The last place we got the bulk of our, I don't know, not the bulk, but a serious collection of firewood was a straight uphill. I mean, it was just massively uphill. So, not something I like. Once you agree to something, you have to kind of stick to your agreement. And that hill was terrible. I was carrying 2 logs up at a time, taking a 2 or 3 minute break in between each trip up. It was miserable. I would bet it was probably in July time frame also. So it was hot. Okay, so I guess I don't go quite to the edge of the property. Let's see if we can figure. This is where I'm starting to circle in. So we'll walk over to here. You can see the fence here. And then, let's see. I guess we keep going here to where this tire is. There's the fence posts, and the tire. Oh, there's fence here. And here's another thing. You know, a lot of people, I nearly killed myself on that. A lot of people told me when I got here, get yourself a brush hog and clean that place up. You know, everybody had a solution of what to do, but they weren't here to see what the problems were. Okay, so I go get a brush hog and a tractor. I spend $20,000 or $30,000 on a setup, and then I spend another $20,000 or $30,000 fixing it because I keep running over a fence and fence posts, and everything was buried. It was easier to come out here with a sickle blade and knock it all down and then get myself a push mower. That way, if I busted a push mower, it was a, Walmart push mower for what, $100, $200. It wasn't a significant loss. So, and that's the other thing, people tell me what to do with this channel, but they're not even listening to what I tell them that's already in the channel. I've said a million times, there is no perfect solution to my water system. It's as good as it's going to get. People offer suggestions, and those suggestions are ridiculous. Well, one example was I should get copper tubing, so that would be expensive, copper tubing, and I'd have to get a lot of it. And I run it from the tank inside the house over to the wood stove flue, the chimney, the flue, and you wrap it around the flue, and you're coiling it up the flue. So as the flue heats up, the water inside the copper pipe heats up and heat rises, so the warm water would go to the top, pulling in more water from the tank, pushing the water into the tank. So that would keep the tank completely warm with hot water or warm water from the flue. And in theory, that sounds great, except there's 2 problems. The first problem is my tank doesn't freeze. And no matter how many times I say that, people say, well, here's how you keep your tank from freezing. That's not the problem. Listen to the problem. When you get here, when you do this, this is going to be your problem. The problem is the pipes are freezing. That's the problem. So I can put all the hot water I want into it. It doesn't make a difference. Now another solution is use my on-demand water heater, propane, and literally just run the heat through the current pipes structure. and then you just run it back into the tank, so it would be constantly pumping hot water. Okay, that's great. We've got 200 gallons of water that we have to heat up regularly with propane. I couldn't even imagine how much cost that would be. So I dismissed that one. Again, just, you know, it's a good solution, but there's a bad problem with it. And it's always that way. So I've done the best I can with it, and I just deal with the problems as they come along at minimal cost. The second problem with that coil system is the stove doesn't always heat. It's not always heating. Right now, I don't have any firewood in it. I only heat the house up 2 or 3 times a day, 4 times on the really cold days. And then it dies off. I let the house cool back down, so I get it up to 80 degrees. It cools down to 60 degrees, and I do that 4 times a day. Most of the day, the house is very comfortable. There are 2 portions of the day it's very not comfortable. When it's 80 degrees and when it's 60 degrees. But the rest of the day, it's okay. So we're sitting here heating water through this copper tubing, and all of a sudden it stops heating. So the water in the pipe, the copper tubing, freezes. So the next time I start up the wood stove, it's going to build up pressure on the areas that the copper tubing has froze and explode in the house. So now I have this big water mess in the house. Again, great solution, but they don't know the dynamics of how to live it. So they don't listen. They have all these solutions and expect me to implement their solutions. And when you tell them you can't do that, well, I was only trying to help. I realize you were trying to help, but how can you help if you didn't listen to the problem? So there's your walk in the woods. So if you'll click this up next box, it'll take you to a video over my other channel. Really appreciate it if you go check it out. So I hope I can inspire you. Walk in the snow, but don't kill yourself, so you live your dreams. Thanks for watching.